Good evening. We are live. It's a bank holiday Skeetnet special. It's Monday, and we've got Michael in Douglas. Is the big boat still in the bay?
It was just a couple of hours ago, Jed. I assume it still has. My Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter feed is still full of pictures of the boat, so I assume it is still there.
Lovely. And Derek, what's wandering round in your lake in the front garden? Is the drawbridge down?
Absolutely. I put the flag up. I've taken the Happy Easter flag down and put the Lancashire flag back up. The great thing, of course, about the Lancashire flag is because it's a rose, you can't hang it the wrong way up, which is really good. So I'll wait for the faux pas on the Queen's birthday when I hang the Union flag up the wrong way or something like that, or when we do Timor Day, I'll put the Manx flag up and see if I can get the legs going the right way. But no, that was about it, really. To be honest with you, the the visit of sailing yacht A is big news, isn't it? Really, it's great to see. I remember seeing a few years ago one of my favourites, Maltese Falcon, was in the bay. That's always an impressive sight as well. I'm not sure why they come. It must be tax reasons or something, mustn't it? They must have to sign in every few. They've actually visited Manx waters. I don't know.
I don't think they know what they're doing because they didn't come round to Port Erin. You know, they've had a view of Onken. Sorry if you live in Onken, but you know, I mean, but it is 500 million quid's worth, and I think the cash has come from what, shifting 100 million tons of coal. Is that the guy's background? Is there some synergy with our green policy on the Isle of Man? Is he? Maybe that's why he's got something in common that we're doing absolutely knob all to preserve the world's climate. Am I being too cynical, Michael?
Yeah, that's.
I think you might be. I think that from what I gather is the boat is on its way to Iceland. It stopped off in the harbour for a little break, as it were. I'm not no expert on the movements of boats, but I wouldn't draw too many conclusions from this. I think boats move around the water. Sometimes they stop here for every now and then. That's about it, I think.
Stop for a gloat.
I wish I'd gone to see it. I mean, how did you see it? Like near the Ben McCree or the Arrow or the sea? The Manannan or anything like that? Could you get a comparison of size?
So I did see other people take those sort of photos. This afternoon there is a container boat that's out in the Irish Sea as well. I'm not far off the east coast of Douglas. So, these are boats, right? Maybe I'm the wrong person to ask because they're just sitting there, right? So.
Oh, well, it's a bit of coverage here for the island, and there's no harm in a Russian...
No coverage at all for the island. No one else cares at all. There's a boat parked off the coast here. It's an entirely internal story. So good on him.
He's worth about 19 billion. I think he's Andrei, isn't he? And he's the 7th richest oligarch in Russia, and I think he's the 97th richest billionaire in the world. So it's a big hitter really, and I think who knows what? Maybe there was a jet ski involved. I don't know. Who knows? So Derek, just fill us in on what's happening across the water. All the restrictions are easing off now.
Yeah, I didn't see the news, but I've just picked up on the BBC website that everything is on track according to Boris. April the 12th, you can get your hair cut at last. You can sit outside the pub. Non-essential shops are opening, gymnasiums are opening, so that's all good. And you can actually go on holiday with yourself as well, as long as you just go to self-catering accommodation. So that's all good. And then the next big hit after that is about a month later, and then it's basically East Springs completely, almost really. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because they're saying, well, we can do all this, but you never know what's going to happen. You never know what variant might be around the corner. So it's I don't know. We're just getting on with it over here, to be honest with you. Most people I know have had the second jab now. I'll be due mine in a few weeks. I'm back at work tomorrow, classroom facing with some new students. So just got to get on with it.
So you've got more freedom than what we have. Michael, you must have some thoughts on that.
I think it shows that once the vaccines are rolled out, we can say goodbye to all this lockdown business. In that, I think that there's the people of the Isle of Man, the great Manx public, as it were, have endured a huge amount of sacrifice and cost over the last 13 months or so. That this cost has been, first and foremost, that we've lost 29 people who've died in the upfront COVID deaths. But then there is also been an unknown number of other deaths, or whether it be due to increased suicide or whether it be other medical treatments that haven't received attention. And then we also have the unquantifiable other costs on our society. And I think of a 37-year-old woman friend of mine. She, to be frank, and let us speak openly and honestly, she is getting towards the end of her time she wanted to have children, and it's difficult for her to conceive every year, and so she's lost a year of her fertility. And so there's a bunch of these costs in our society that we have paid over the last 13 months, and we've done that to save the lives of the vulnerable. And it is great to see the vaccine being deployed. It is great to know that those costs are coming to an end. And it is great to know that we're going to be able to reopen. We're going to rejoin the world. We're going to rejoin the hugs. We're going to rejoin the families. We're going to rejoin the economy. We're going to rejoin the opportunity. And I'm excited about that. We're here talking here at the end of the Easter weekend, and the Easter weekend is ultimately a story of the Easter message is a story of rebirth. And so, here we are talking in this context. It's a rebirth that's coming, and I'm excited for that.
It's not happening quick enough, though, is it? At the moment, our borders are still going to be closed till September. I'm not hearing anything else come out of the government offices about that. Derek, things are happening vacation-wise, aren't they? The wheels are in motion. We've got a lot of people here who've got itchy feet. And Michael, you mentioned about the knock-on there and the effects just on life in general, that a lot of people have had a year stolen. Whichever way you look at it, a year stolen, a year of opportunity. And I just kind of wonder, did we get it right here? Did we get it right?
Look, it's difficult to quantify that. We don't know. And I suspect over the next 10 years, the whole decade of the 2020s, the whole field of social science will be dedicated to trying to answer that question. There's a bunch of things that we've done well. There's been a bunch of things we've done bad. And that is not just in reference to the Isle of Man, but Western civilization in general. And it'll be, we'll have to count up all the costs. Here in the Isle of Man, it seems that we had a surge in suicides, but a fall in the number of road traffic collisions. And that fall in road traffic collisions was entirely during the period of lockdown. So outside of lockdown, road traffic collisions in 2020 were the same as 2019 in the Isle of Man. But what's interesting is that that's the reverse of what's happened in the US. And the US has actually had less suicides last year, but a surge in road traffic collisions. And so the result being is I think there's been a whole bunch of complicated issues at play here. And it's going to take a long time for science to figure out all the costs and all the benefits. I don't know what that final calculation will be. But all we can do is make the best choices using the information we have available to us, on each day.
It could be that the biggest impact is on those, 3,000 people that are on waiting lists for clinical treatment, and what is being missed, diagnosis-wise, what is being missed. Could we have accommodated that? Did we kind of make the medical environment almost too safe? At what expense? Derek, you're looking very pensive there. What's your thought?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I've just sort of it went COVID-tastic. The whole health service did over here as well, and people have lost their lives because they're not being able to get scans, diagnoses, and this, that, and the other. Take that in today's context, though. I mean, I had a brother-in-law survive very serious cancer over the COVID period. My wife, she's got a couple of investigations to have done. She's been booked in within a couple of weeks, so it is moving very forward. It's moving forward very, very quickly now.
quite.
Guys, I don't know if you can see me, but you've just completely vanished off the screen.
We can
Send
see
me a
you.
sign.
We can see you and hear you. So it's who knows? It's the
Send me a tweet.
The interweb is getting. I don't know. Are we okay there, Mike? Are you okay?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
All good.
Derek. Yeah. Okay, that's good. So, Michael, did you occupy any of your time with looking at the Dr. Rachel and the robot wars?
Yeah, and so it was interesting to read the reporting and some of the coverage of that, and it's really impressive to see members of our community like Dr. Glover and like many other people have sacrificed so much obviously on personal levels, but also at a professional level, and so that's really great.
I tuned into David Ashford today because, of course, there was a lot of negativity last week following Dr. Glover's evidence, should we say, in front of the Public Accounts Committee, where the likes of Chris Robertshaw extracted a heck of a lot of information, and it drew so much comment. But I heard David Ashford today, and he was very confident. He's worth watching. He's with Paul Moulton, and his account gave quite a balance to what was on the other side. So it'll be really interesting to see how this pans out. It's well worth it. I'll just take a bit of time, and anyone out there, go onto the Tynwald Live website, the Listen Again facility, and you can listen to what's actually said. I think the meaty bit comes along after about 70 minutes when Chris Robertshaw kind of has a session with the doctor. But when David Ashford spoke today, you thought, okay, let's just take a balanced view and let's hear all the facts. And I think those that were on the Public Accounts Committee, so the likes of June Watson, Julie Edge, I think it was Laurie Hooper and Chris Robertshaw, they've got a job to do now, and they've got to bring the department in and just make sure that all the questions are going to be answered, because there were allegations of theft, criminality, plagiarism. You could almost throw in bullying in there. I don't know, but it was something else. It's going to be quite a saga, and the sooner we get to the bottom of it, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have, I think it really raised a lot of questions that the government now needs to answer. I did see Manx Radio reporting that the Island government was going to go through a detailed point-by-point rebuttal at some stage. Hopefully they can release that alleged document sometime soon, because I think that'll be very interesting, and we can get to the bottom of this. And my gut feeling here is that private citizens like Dr. Glover do not go looking for fights like this. What is clear, especially from the reporting of her work to get the testing established in the first place, is that she was here to do the science, to do the testing. She's a genomics scientist. She's got a PhD in her specialist science field. She's not a politician, despite the many people being interested and perhaps asking her to serve. And so the result being is that it's in these sort of situations, she did not go spoiling for a fight. She just wanted to do the science, and it'd be good, if the government was willing to put aside their petty political patheticness and focus on saving lives, focus on the science, as Dr. Glover appears to have done right from the very beginning.
Well, hopefully it'll be concluded soon, but I can't see it. It's one of those things. I mean, Derek, are you back with us? Are you?
I'm back in the room. I think Rachel Glover did actually go spoiling for a fight, but for all the right reasons. She had the moral high ground, she had the intelligence, she had the capacity, and she knew she was right. And it was a real calling out of the hubris of Comyn. She did absolutely the right thing, and fair play to her. And I don't think we've seen the last of it yet, to be honest. She's just going to pester, nag, and bite, and is held to account for not utilising that amazing local resource that exists. And overall support that she provided. I really think she should have got some proper recognition out of it. There's MBE in there, if nothing else, in terms of the way that she spooled things up. And you could say that her work gave us that magnificent summit we had last year, where we enjoyed very, very unique freedom. I think everybody's got a bit bored of that now, to be honest with you. And what I was just about to say beforehand, before I was unfortunately I dropped out, was that, and I've said this before, for goodness sake, just align with England now in terms of how we're going to manage this on an ongoing basis. We know it's going to be to say that they've pretty much nailed the colours to the mask and said that elimination is now not a strategy. We're going to go for mitigation and control. You may as well do that with your nearest trading partner, if you will, and your maritime and aviation partner in terms of England, and just get on with it. Get the island open. And Jen, it was just as you were saying there, England is about to explode in terms of tourism, and the Isle of Man tourist economy is going to miss out on that, because I think they're listening to the shouty minority again in terms of, oh no, it's lovely when the borders are closed and we want to keep it this way. Probably people that are on a pension, don't have much outgoings, never leave the island anyway, and have no ambition beyond that. And unfortunately, it's dragging everybody else into the bucket with them. And it's really, really unfortunate.
It's difficult, isn't it? And with it being an election year, I think our political representatives, the ones that are planning on staying in their seats, are perhaps a little bit tentative in speaking out. Is it easier to stick on the fence and just jump at the right moment? Are you hearing anything, Michael? I mean, are we sensing, is anyone flying the flag, carrying the torch, leading the crusade? This is where we're going to go, over the top now. Are you feeling that at the moment on the island?
I feel like many of these leaders, the supposed political community leaders in Tynwald, are not, looking to the future. And so there are some really big and important policy debates that we should be having as a community, some conversations that we should be having about how we want to build back better for the future. And it's really disappointing to see the lack of leadership, not just from Comyn, but from many members of Tynwald who are not, sharing and writing and talking and listening about different ideas. Things like, vaccine passports. Things like, what sort of testing should we have on the island after we open up to more, to decide that we're going to live with it. What thresholds are appropriate there? Will we allow people in the future who are Manx people to have an unstoppable and irreversible right to return? And these are the big policy issues, and it's for the future. And it's really important that we had more leaders in our community talking about these issues.
Well, it certainly has gone a bit quiet. There wasn't a great deal coming out on the bank holiday. There was a bit of suspicion that the Dr. Rachel's evidence on a Thursday was just timed conveniently, that it'll all be forgotten about by tomorrow morning. But I'm not confident of that, because we'll have another presser tomorrow afternoon, and fortunately we've got another day of no new cases, and we're on that run now where we've got our eyes on the finish line. The pub's about to be open. I think it's funny, isn't it, how we gauge the success of getting out of these periods is when you can go and buy a pint. And I listened to Boris Johnson on the presser at 5 o'clock, and it was the same thing. He waxed lyrical about going into that pub and supping a few, which is a great leveler. It kind of connects with everyone, but I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks, Derek, I don't know, for the island.
What are they waiting for? That's a ridiculous thing. What are they waiting for? It really does strike me that they're going back for elimination, regardless of what they there's Henrietta's been talking about 21 days without a positive case being detected in this and the other. That sounds very much, again, like elimination to me. So I think, you guys are stuck there for a little bit longer the way things are going, and it's not good.
Oh, Michael, I think there's something popped up on the media today about that. There might be a change regarding mitigation rather than elimination, but we'll have to look at that a little bit further. I don't know whether you picked up on that.
Yeah, I did, and I disagree
Twitter.
I disagree a little bit with what Derek's saying there. In that, we here in the Isle of Man, we've just paid. Let me look at the clock here. We've just paid four and a bit weeks. I've just paid a month's worth of being under house arrest. I tell you what, if we've just endured this, we better have some time where we don't have the virus floating around on the island. While we finish vaccinating people, like it makes no sense to go straight into this mitigation process or living with the virus right after we've had the lockdown. You do that at the start of the lockdown, not the end of the lockdown. Because otherwise it means the lockdown is for nothing. So we paid the price, and now let us finish off the vaccination. Let's get that done, and so we can live more freely in the future.
But you can't be confident that this thing is going to be stopped. You look at the track record. It was errors, mistakes, oversights, whatever, and the disease came into our communities. And if it does come in again, who knows? It could come in anyway. Then we can't.
Yeah, who knows where the next government mistake is? They voted in November against increasing testing for people coming. They opposed moves to separate, to ensure that people were properly isolating away from their family. And so who knows where this next government mistake will come or where the next outbreak will come from. It could come from anywhere, but let's hope it doesn't come for at least a few weeks, because otherwise this last 4 weeks of lockdown has been for nothing.
But they can't hit the reset button ever again. That's gone. We cannot do another lockdown.
There can't be. No, I agree with that. There can't be. I agree with that.
I think they will. I think you'll see this continued overcautiousness. There seems to be a lack of willingness to actually break out of the cycle and actually open the borders and actually make the place work again and be part of the with the outside world. I really detect a reluctance to do that. Certainly with some of the the sort of comments you get of people with social media, there are people that are quite the bubble to security, without a doubt.
Yeah. So I think what we've got to do is, as back in the middle of February, when this steam packet, when this government Department of Cabinet outbreak came to start, we spoke here on this very show back on February 19th. And we said that we need to get away from this extremist seesaw from one extreme to the other, from everyone go lick a lamppost to everyone under house arrest, and that it would be prudent, as we said back on February the 19th, to reduce the risk and to avoid these extremist measures by doing things like social distancing, like wearing masks. And I don't particularly enjoy wearing a mask when I'm out and about. I don't particularly enjoy the social distancing. I went to the fish and chippy earlier, and I didn't particularly like the queuing and having to stand outside. But I tell you what, doing that is a lot better than lockdown. And the choice is not, do we do masks or nothing? It's not, do we do lockdown or nothing? The choice is, about doing those things that reduce the risk. And this government's, head in the sand, extremist views on these things obviously haven't worked. But secondly, we need to do more things that look to reduce the risk.
It's true, isn't it? If we really put the magnifying glass on the second half of February, I know that there's a lot of consternation. We've got Julie Edge asking questions again in the big house about these cases appearing in the schools and trying to nail down the dates and what have you. And it does seem that there is a real grey area there where we flip-flopped on the Saturday. It was the weekend where we knew what was going to happen. The general public could guess what was going to happen. We could sense this almost... This was just about to erupt, and it did. And yet the people who were in the centre of it all didn't detect that at all.
And yeah, you're exactly right. And what is worse, the worst part of their attitude there is that they were pig-headed, head in the sand, bad thinking that led to it. In that they were saying, firstly on Saturday, everyone go home, not to the point where I was literally we interrupted hockey matches which had 5 minutes to go because the government sent out their urgent stay-at-home notice. On one hand, that extremist attitude. Then on Sunday they said perfectly safe, fully endorse what the minister said. And these people and their extremist views have been wrong, and that we need to get away from that line of thinking. That whole fundamental strategic thought is what's wrong. Right? It's not necessarily, whether the written advice shows it. We saw it on our TV screens, on our video screens, on our phones, on our computers, and that their thinking, which was telling people, "Oh, it's all perfectly safe. Go lick a lamppost," is dumb thinking. It's bad thinking. As it turns out, it has tragically led to the loss of lives. When the alternative was, as we said back before the outbreak took hold, was let's start taking precautions. And, no one wants to be Harry Hindsight, but let's look at what we were saying in foresight. And the government's thinking here is always in hindsight. They're always behind the game. And it's really sad that we now have had not just the additional loss of life, but of the COVID patients, but the additional losses of mental health, of education, of physical health, of businesses, of jobs. Who knows how many suicides took place during this last month. And these things are tragic, and it's really sad. And that's why we've got to get away from this idea of lockdowns, this idea of extremism in the future. We've got to do things that reduce the risk.
Derek?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And that's what I really hope that you guys get very, very soon. We've come over here. It's very different, but the world is turning. It really is. It doesn't feel like a lockdown at all. We're looking forward to getting to the shops and going out and buying some more cushions and stuff like that, and bits of furniture that we need. But we're managing, absolutely managing. We had a lovely Indian takeaway the other day from our local Indian restaurant. There was an artisan farmers market in the village today. I really don't know what the problem is, but it's just that usual sort of inertia that seems to exist within Manx politics, whether it's getting the prom done, whether it's getting the decide whether to lock the borders or not, and stuff like that. All the things that tend to cost time, unless, of course, it's to do with the Liverpool landing stage, which just seems to be a money no object thing. But everything else seems to just concertina into a bucket, and it takes ages to get sorted out afterwards. It's a real shame. It doesn't need to be like that. It's the world's least complex place when you actually step back outside and have a look how great it is. It doesn't need to be as hard as it is.
There does seem to be a problem with decision making, and the likes of, say, whatever the excuses are, around Flip-Flop Saturday, where I've heard it and it is said, oh, well, there was a test that came back negative and the tracing team, sort of eliminated the sources and what have you. But the bottom line is that we had a mass infection that was driven through the schools, and the proof's in the pudding. What happened? Our figures went through the roof. So no matter what can be said, this was a mistake. It's as simple as that. But anyway, we've got to move on. We've got to look ahead. But it's just this instance. What happens if the infection creeps back in to the Isle of Man? We've just got to live with it, haven't we? We can't go back.
Well, we can do things between the two extremes here. And it would be prudent. If there is some risk, you take some precautions. When there is more risk, you take more precautions. This is not controversial thinking. These are not controversial ideas. This is the sort of thing that you learn in, as a human, to say, when things are very safe, well, you're fine. When things are a little bit less safe, and then so to do that, however, and a lot of these risk reduction mechanisms will need to be decentralized, and that is different people will need to make different decisions about what risk is appropriate. And to do that, it will be about time for the government to start publishing the scientific advice. Instead of keeping all their scientific advice secret, as they have over the last 13, 14 months now, it's time to come clean. And so I think that is one of the good things about the Dr. Glover testimony to the Tynwald, is that we will hopefully begin to see a little bit of this science coming clean. And I think that's what's important, because transparency is the way forward. Transparency is the best disinfectant, and it's time to do that so that people can make lives and make decisions that properly balance and reflect the risk.
Well, that is what the public deserve, and there's a sense of dissatisfaction that we haven't been served, with the information. Things haven't been open, and then, to say that decisions weren't even written down and were just verbally agreed that had a national consequence, it just doesn't stack up. I've just got Christian asking, have you muted Derek? No, Derek has evaporated in the bandwidth kind of vapour. I think his signal isn't strong enough, so he has left us, which is a shame. So I think we'll just about wrap it up in a couple of minutes. Michael, any gossip, anything happening in Douglas? What's the word on the street?
Look, I enjoyed over the weekend a little bit of time sitting out in the sun, sometimes with friends, sometimes alone, and it is good to think that the sun has risen. We have the end of winter and we have the beginning of spring. We have the end or the ending of lockdown, and we have the beginning of spring. And tomorrow is going to be better. More people are going to be vaccinated tomorrow than there were yesterday. We're rolling on. Let us look to the future, because I'm excited about that, and it'll be good.
Hear, hear. Well, we'll call it an end to the bank holiday weekend almost, and we'll catch up again. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and we'll get the internet sorted, I think, next time for Derek. I must ramp up the dial on my system, but adios, folks. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.